possible, could some of the students on my left come a bit forward, since there are some seats in front? It would be nice.
So that it's got shade.
Right, right, right.
It's got shade at the back.
Yes. It's a sunny day, so it's understandable. Um, so I'll just go ahead and start us off.
Yes.
First of all, Dr. Deepak, thank you for being here. It's a real pleasure to have you with us here at the Coal India Kolkata Literary Meet.
I literally saw them, planning out their calendar for the whole week, prioritizing their duties. My father had to carry his uniforms with him in a suitcase tied to the scooter because we did not have a four-wheeler then. My mother learned bicycle to commute between the hospital and the home. So many times my brother was found sitting in the veranda because my mother had to be with me. My father was at some training of the army or some army duty from where he could not leave. In short, in those younger years, my very formative years as a child, I learned what it is to meticulously plan a timetable, what it is to prepare ahead of time, what it is to go by the watch, be punctual, because that made it very easy for us to manage the timetable. Above all, he took me on the stage like this in the assembly of students. He made the craft teacher make some stars, golden stars out of craft paper. They put it in a beautiful basket. They put that basket in my lap, and my principal announced in the school that any child who is going to help Deepa push her wheelchair, take out her lunch box, open her textbook, Deepa is going to give a star to that child. And suddenly the crippled, the scared Deepa became a little princess with the golden stars. And every child wanted to help me, every child wanted to come up and open my textbook or pass on something to me, push me around, take me to the playground with them, sit with me, talk to me, and I would hand out the golden stars. And that child was then the children who got the stars were then called on the stage, applauded, given a chocolate. It created a beautiful atmosphere of inclusion. I remember my teacher, because I could not bend down and read the textbook. My class teacher went to the music room and she got a piano, that music piano book stand, that the music stand you have. She placed it in front of me so that I could look at my textbooks like that. So I think I got that support and that acceptance, that love, which kept me going, which kept me very positive. And I think that is why the book is important, because each one of us have to learn those values to become that person who can help another one to make somebody's life better.
Another theme that you've consistently spoken about was also your ability to adapt to
Yes.
a lot of situations. Whether you've gone from a farmhouse in Ahmednagar to that one bedroom flat
Yes.
in Delhi, or even your adaptability across multiple sports. Where one Paralympic you're in one category, and in the other one you've gone from javelin to shot put, and even adapting to different cities, because as an army kid you had to maybe move around a lot.
Yes.
And I think one of those times was when you actually came to Kolkata. So I think you had a house in Salt Lake, I believe.
Yes.
So how do you have any before I go into the adaptability aspect? Do you have any fond memories of your time in the city?
I think Kolkata was a place then called Calcutta. Incidentally, I have done my schooling here, and I'm so happy to see children in school uniforms. It brings back a lot of memories for me. I have studied in 11th and 12th, first in Salt Lake Kendriya Vidyalaya, and then my father was moved to the Fort William area. So I have studied in Kendriya Vidyalaya, Fort William, where I was also the sports captain. And later in class 12th, I became the school captain. So I remember that the first rock band that I saw a live performance was in Kolkata when we were taken to the annual fest of Xavier's College. I had never seen someone play live bands, so that was the first for me. I saw my first English movie here I saw the break dance live for the first time, and the new market memories of the old new market, which is again very paradoxical. But then there was a fire there, so I went to buy my first birthday outfit on my own in a tram. I used to love that. So there were a lot of very lot of firsts here. First time when you are allowed to go out with your friends because now you are a teenager. Because we grew up in a very protected atmosphere, but there were a lot of firsts in Kolkata. I have very great memories, and I learned my biking also here. Well, I was a little underage, but yes, this is here that I got my first Luna, and I used to ride the two-wheeler. So great memories, great. I can't forget the puchkas and the jhalmuris, and the first pizza that I ever saw in the Park Street. A lot of firsts here, yeah. And you're talking about adaptability.
Yeah.
I think army is one profession where your father moves from one station to another. Sometimes it's a big city like Kolkata. Sometimes it's a very small border area location like Akhnur in the northern region of Jammu Kashmir. So every 2 years you are moving, you're packing, you're unpacking. First you get a temporary accommodation, then you get a bigger accommodation. You're changing your friends. There is no... But with this you get that habit of making friends easily, for being able to adjust to new environment easily. And that was very important because my whole life had undergone a huge change. One day you are walking, you are winning a beauty contest, you are crowned a Navy Queen, and in the same year, 4 months later, the doctors tell you that you will either die or you will never walk again. Especially when you already have a child. My daughter, she had also met with an accident. A road accident caused paralysis on the left side of her body. She was a tiny little girl then. So you have suffered as a child. Then you see your child suffering. And then the doctors are telling you, you may die or you will be paralyzed for the rest of your life if you are alive. So there's a lot to absorb. There is a lot to adjust. There is a lot of reality to accept. Had I not had that ability to accept change, I probably would not have been able to do it. And coming to your aspect of telling me that, yes, I was married to an army officer. I was mother of two. Despite being paralyzed, I was having a very comfortable life because my father-in-law retired as a general of the Indian Army. We had a palatial bungalow in Ahmednagar, Maharashtra, with all the help required by a person in disability. But at the age of 40, I decided that I want to play for my country. How many people how many students here know about Paralympics? Oh, there's a lot of hands. Kudos to your
It's great
school.
to see, yeah.
Yeah, because thank you. I'm really honored to be among you today because the first time when I had joined the world of sports almost 2 decades ago, and even the journalists used to ask, what is para sports? And I would say, hey, I play para sports. And they would say, how do you jump from a parachute from an aeroplane when you can't even walk? So the para sports was only, thought it to be something to do with parachutes or paragliding. Nobody knew that they are... Who's going to tell me what are para sports? Why do you call them Paralympic? Can I have a mic there among the students? Is there a mic? That's lovely. You all are from which school, mostly? Which school? Lovely. I'm so happy to see so many hands. Who's going to tell me what Paralympics games are about?
The Paralympics are sports for the paralyzed people. Basically, everything in the normal Olympics, but for the paralyzed people.
So, just a little bit of tweaking there, not just for paralyzed people, but people belonging to different sets of disabilities. It could be dwarfism, which is being height challenged. It could be visual impairment. It could also be locomotive disorder, cerebral palsy, amputee, paralysis, like different spectrums and classifications of disabilities. And why we call them Paralympics? Because they are parallel to main Olympics, which you so rightly said. They are very much mainstream sports. And I suddenly felt that joining the world of sport, so when you are a sports person, people call you an athlete, a sportswoman. And when you are not playing, people used to call me a woman in the wheelchair, or they will call me a disabled woman, or they will call me a patient. Because to maintain this body of spastic paraplegia, I have to continuously go for my rehabilitative exercises, for my physiotherapy. So when I used to go to the hospital to maintain my body strength, to be able to do my work whatever best I could, people would still call me a patient. But when I would go to the gym to play wearing a tracksuit of the Indian colors, people would call me an athlete. And that was a different identity that I got. So I really wanted to create that awareness for persons with disability to come out and play and take the advantage of this platform of Paralympic sports. But when I started, there were hardly any women. And at 40, when I left home, I said I want to go and play, and I want to go to Delhi, and I want to demand policies around it, because I may not have worked all my life. I was a homemaker, but my education taught me how to write letters, how to write applications, how to put down my thoughts in a piece of paper. And that's what I did. I played, and at the same time, I jotted down what are the difficulties, what is that my country needs to do for these sports. And can you imagine a 40-year-old woman leaves her home, goes to Delhi, because there are lack of finances and funding, lives out of one room in a village area of Delhi, tries to train herself, and at the same time, when she demands the policies, she actually becomes a member of the 5-year planning commission in the working group as appointed by the HRD division of sports ministry, and writing policies for parasports. And that deserves a clap. If you have understood what I just said. Yes.
So Deepaji, you've spoken a lot about the amount of like how you took up sports,
Yes.
how that became kind of a medium for you to kind of change your identity from being called a patient or a wheelchair bound to
Yes.
being an athlete. So you've played various sports. You swum. You've also done a lot of track and field. So could you walk us through kind of your journey into getting into these sports, as well as kind of how the journey changed from swimming to then discus, to then shot put or javelin, all these things you have played. Could you just kind of say how?
So Satyajit, in 80s, when I was a young teenager girl, I fell in love with bikes. And riding bikes for girls in 80s was like not heard of. So I was always considered the rebel child or the bad girl, and I really got pulled up by my parents. I think mostly because they were worried that if I had a fall, I had already been a child on wheelchair as a child. And, so I can now relate to their concerns because I'm a parent. And also probably I was not in the age of getting a valid license for driving. So that was not the right thing to do. But that turned my passion. And that passion even made me, I always say my marriage was love come arranged. My love for bikes, motorbikes, got my marriage arranged, because that was the condition of my marriage, that I will only marry a man who gifts me a motorcycle and never stops me from riding it. So I finally found a young army officer who fell in love with me for my biking skills and my tomboyish attitude. And he walked up to my father and he said he's going to gift a bike to me. Can he marry me? And that was a very romantic proposal that I had. I can see a lot of girls smiling. That's interesting to them.
Yeah.
So we were a very out-of-the-box couple. Those days, husband-wife never used to go on bikes, do tours and everything. And I wish we had Instagram and Facebook those days. I probably would have been the highest paid YouTuber, sharing stories of my biking days. So when I got paralyzed, I was running a small garden restaurant to keep me occupied, to make me feel empowered financially also, because I wanted to be that mother whom my daughters looked up to. I had to bring up a child in disability. I did not want my daughters to remember me as a sad person. Now, let me, before I tell you this story and answer you completely, I want to again throw a question at the students here. What do you feel when you see a wheel? What does a wheel tell you? What does a wheel stand there? I see a hand being raised there. Can I have? When you look at a wheel, what is the first thought that comes to your mind?
My name is Aradha Kunti from Indus Valley World School.
Yes.
When I look at a wheel, convenience of locomotion, something that helps people to move.
Wow. My God. You guys, you all need to write a book, huh? I'm already nervous. These are beautiful answers. So basically, what is in the center of our national flag? What is there in the bottom of the Ashoka Chinna? In the center? You have a chakra? That's what. The chakra is a symbol of movement. It is symbol of progress. It is symbol of moving forward. And when the wheel was discovered, human civilization progressed. So when I sit on a wheelchair, why do people call me wheelchair bound? I think I am wheelchair liberated because I find my mobility in the wheels. And so that's how I wanted people to look at me. And I said, okay, if they still remember me as the biker babe, and they feel sorry for me sitting on the wheels of the wheelchair, I am going to again get the wheels of the bike back in my life. And I started researching. I learned information technology. I enrolled myself at the age of 37 years to learn the computers and understand emailing. And I started writing to people to give me funding to make a bike. For that, the doctors told me that I need to exercise my upper limbs because it is only with the two hands that I'll be able to balance my body. So that was a lot of research. If you read my book, you will, that was a very difficult journey to convince people to give me money to make a special bike to ride, create Limca world record on it. If you read the book, you will read more, but to just convey what I'm trying to say here is, I started my rehabilitation again. I had learned how to manage the new body, what to eat, when to eat, because I don't have a bladder or a bowel control. The water I drink comes out in the form of urine on its own. I don't come to know. When I have to pass the stool, I don't come to know. I have to be very conscious of what I eat, when to eat, what will be my travel time, how long will I be out wearing a diaper, will I get a room to change my diaper. That's how I'm living my life for last 25 years. But it's a beautiful life. I have been able to learn it. That is why I have been able to manage it. So I wanted to learn good exercising, and that they introduced me to water and hydrotherapy when I was doing exercises to strengthen my body and practice movement in the body. I realized I'm not drowning. And when you are not drowning, you are swimming. And that's what made me learn the potential that, oh, I can swim from this body. So I worked hard. I learned how to be a swimmer in a competition because that was a different learning. You are just in the water moving your arms is a different story. But when you have to go for a competition at international level, you have to work harder. And that's how the sports person was born. So in the quest of being a biker, I accidentally discovered the potential of swimming. And that's how I joined the world of sports at the age of 36 years as a swimmer first. And at 40, I transited into para-athletics. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And So one last question before we open it up to the audience. So a big the book ends kind of with your journey in the Rio Olympics.
Yes.
And before that journey starts, you had mentioned that when you were given the Arjuna Award in 2012, that may as well have been the epilogue of your career. So could you just tell the students and all those present here about how you kind of said develop that hunger to kind of say that no, I want to participate in the Paralympics in 2016 Rio Games, and like what was your thinking and source of motivation, and how did that go for you?
So dear children, in 2012, I got the Arjuna Award, which is given to you for doing very well in sports by the President of India. You know, all of you know that, right? 2012 was also the year when I was preparing to go to London Paralympics. But till then, the policies had still not got defined. We did not have very easy processes to go and qualify internationally. And somehow the paperwork got delayed. I could not make it to the Paralympics in London 2012. 29th of August was the opening ceremony of London Paralympics. 29th August was also the day we were having the celebration of President's Sports Honours in the Rashtrapati Bhavan. I was there and someone said, it's all right, you could not go to the London Paralympics because Indians as it is don't win medals. We just go there to show our face. And even for participation at the Paralympics, you would have just got an Arjuna Award, which you are already getting. Because I had made history by becoming the first woman of India to win a Para-Asian Games medal and also win the first man or woman world championship medal for the country and create Asian records by winning golds at the Malaysian Open. So I was getting my Arjuna from the President Award, from the President of India. Suddenly the Arjuna Award felt like a compensation for Paralympics. It was as if somebody is telling me that, oh, you are lucky, you are 42 years old. Because I very clearly remember I had Deepika from archery and a Deepika from squash winning the Arjuna Award with me. One was 18 years old, one was 19 years old, and I was 42 years old. I was almost the age of their mother. I was winning my Arjuna Award with Yuvraj, the cricketer. And everybody said, oh, you're so lucky, you're getting a... I said, I worked hard. I left home. I left children. I lived out of a room. I struggled for every penny. I went to different colleges and corporates to give lectures on motivation to get some pocket money to be able to afford to buy a javelin which costs 1 lakh rupees. I'm struggling. When there were 4 eggs in the house, it was me eating it because I was preparing. And imagine a mother telling the children not to eat eggs because I need to play for the country. It was a very tough time. As a mother, as an athlete, as a woman, as a wife, lot of sacrifice had gone in. Then I decided, I said, no, I'm not going to retire at the Arjuna Award. I'm going to work harder till I have made it to the Paralympics. And why should I listen to others? The problem occurs when you allow others to paint their colors of stereotype into your aspirations and dreams. And I said, no, I'm going to work harder. Though people doubted me, they said a woman who's 46 years old is now trying to prepare. I was excelling in javelin. My event changed to shot put. And then again people said, retire now because you're going to make a fool of yourself. But I think the hard work, the self-belief, the positivity, and the will to learn a new skill and not to give up were the key ingredients where I went on to become the first Indian woman ever at the age of 46 years to win a Paralympic medal for the country. How many children, I think most of their mothers must be that age. Because they're young children, mummy must be 40, 41, 38 years old, right? Most of your mothers must be that age. Do you imagine them to leave home, go prepare for Olympic level event? Can you imagine living without your mother for 3 years while she is preparing to win a medal for the country? Yes, I see a hand there. What do you want to say, dear? I need a mic there. That's an interesting comment.
If like I wouldn't be much shocked if my mother said so. You know, yeah, like I have a 2-year-old sister. Now even like with that, she it was we went to the ground. I had a bicycle. I still have it. You know, we went to the ground and like my mother would put my sister to sleep, and then I would like teach her bicycle how to ride it.
How
You know,
sweet.
and like you know, it was her childhood. Like she had a lot of restrictions, but still, you know, she graduated in accounts.
Wow.
You know, like my grandfather, he was not totally against studying. Like he wanted her to be a graduate, but she wanted to be a air hostess, but it was never allowed. Like you have to go there to the center to, you know, get an admission. That was never allowed. And plus I wouldn't be shocked because
Oh,
even now,
so happy to meet a daughter who's so proud of her mother. And wow, I love you, girl. What's your name?
Akshaya.
Akshaya. Give my regards to your mom when you meet her today.
And plus, you know, ma'am, it's not actually my father lives outside. My mother is handling everything on her own.
You know what? What Akshaya just did, she expressed gratitude. And do you know, my dear girls and children and students here, the best attitude you can wear is gratitude. Because gratitude makes you a positive person. Kudos to you, my girl. My regards to your mother. And then imagine I continued to play after 42 years of age. At 44, I won my second President Award when I made the second consecutive Asian Games record in my country. I got the National Role Model Award. At the age of 47, I got the Padma Shri from the President of India. That was my third President Award. And then everybody said, now you retire, now you retire. At the age of 48, I prepared again. I made my third consecutive Asian record in javelin. I picked up a medal in that and in discus throw. And at the age of 49, I got my Khel Ratna Award, which actually is the highest award. And they were calling me lucky to get an Arjun Award with Yuvraj. When I won my Padma Shri, I won it with Virat Kohli. And 2019, when I won my Khel Ratna, I had the likes of Bajrang Punia and the Olympians alongside when I won it. So yes, if you have your heart and mind in it, age, gender, disability, they take a second seat. What works for you is your own will, your own self-belief, and your own journey of hard work and honest hard work, because there is no shortcut to success.
Excuse me?
Yes.
I think
We can open the
we can
house?
open it now because
Yes.
I think everyone has a lot of things to say. So
Yes.
there are a lot of hands going up.
I love my audience. You're such a beautiful audience.
So let's go once this side, once that side.
We have a child
So
here.
let's go
Can I
here,
have this
front row.
boy? Can you stand up, beta?
Oh, actually,
Yes. Can I have a mic here, please?
You can, for the next question, we can have.
There's already a mic
There's
there?
already there.
Okay.
Yeah.
After this, you ask me, son. Okay? First you ask, then you ask me. Can you give him the mic? Yeah. Go ahead, daughter.
Hello, ma'am. My name is Madhuja Shah from Mahadevi Birla World Academy. So I heard about your stories about telling that you left your home, you left your daughter, you left your child, and that true situation of that, like you told that you left everything. So that that story also happened with me. Actually, in 2024, my mother is a senior PhD of she's a sister of medical college, and she is now retired, and she's not retired, she's promoted to another state. And she left me, my father, but when she left, I learned many things. I learned that how to live in my own, how to live a life without my parents, how to live a life like being a responsible girl. I learned many things in my own when my mother left. But still, I talk to my mother. I get a time to talk to my mother. My father handles everything, and I'm really thankful that I have learned so much things in my life.
So I am so happy you're not angry, you're not anxious, you have accepted it, and that's what we do. As a family, we stand by each other's aspirations and dreams, we support them. And I think you've really supported your mother by not being angry about her departure. Rather, you are happy that she's growing, and whatever role she has taken on is going to benefit so many lives, and it is going to be, sometimes the purpose is beyond yourself. You have to not be selfish. Had I been selfish and stayed back and not pushed my limits, not fought for the policies, you know, girls, students, there was only one female medal till 2016 in India. But post my medal, the change that has come about, now we have 14 more female medals from the Paralympics. And that's a huge, tremendous growth. So you can imagine 14 more daughters in disability have become such accomplished heroes of India. If one had not taken that step, 14 more girls wouldn't have become those heroes, and those medals would have never come for our tricolor. So sometimes these sacrifices are for a larger purpose. And I'm so happy that as a child you have understood it and you are appreciating your parents for that. I'm so happy. You can be a role model for many children who crib about their parents' absence, or they're not happy with what their parents are giving them. Thank you for being who you are. And now can I have your question?
Yes, ma'am. I am Yusuf from MSB Educational Institute.
Hello, Yusuf.
And my question is that you told that you got very much support from everyone, but how did you overcome these problems when you were alone? And you told that you were in a village in a Delhi. And what led to you to writing this book particular? Because you had so much options as you had won so many awards.
Oh, yes. That's again, so that is where your sense of responsibility comes in, and the sense of giving back. I am who I am today because there were people who supported me. I am who I am today because finally my government made inclusive policies for sports for the persons with disabilities. Today, many corporate houses and stakeholders are coming together to support the training of para sports persons. Now, when I've got everything, I can't move away. I learnt again, I learnt to be an administrator, and I thought as a senior para athlete, it was my duty to give back to other athletes, give them that platform to come out and take the advantage of this complete new ecosystem of para sports. So I think this was a sense of responsibility that came upon me. And second, writing a book, as I said, I thought that I want people to know that when you are willing to take an initiative, lot of times हम लोग ये सोचते हैं मेरे करने से क्या होगा, मैं अकेला करूँगा तो क्या होगा. अगर मैंने ये सोचा होता कि मेरे अकेले से क्या होगा, तो ना आज पॉलिसीज बनी होती, ना मोटर व्हीकल एक्ट में चेंज आया होता, ना इतने सारे बच्चे मेडल जीते होते. टुडे आई एम नॉट प्राउड ऑफ माय पद्म श्री और माय पैरालंपिक मेडल. आई एम मोर प्राउड of the fact that Mahatma Gandhi says, be the change that you want to see around you. And I'm so happy that I could become that change which I wanted to see in the world, in my country. See, on one side you have stairs, on the other side you have a ramp. This is the new India we want to make. We want to make our country accessible, not just infrastructurally, but in the mindset. This is my new India. That children, despite heat, I'm not an actress, I'm not a cricketer, I'm not even a politician, I'm not a model. Yet so nicely you are listening to me because I'm somebody who's made India proud. This is the India that I wanted to see, hence the book.
So we have time for just one final question. We can keep on listening to you, Ms. Deepa. It's been wonderful. She will be available at the Story Bookstore where she will sign her book, so we can continue there. One final short question.
I see a boy in the green blazer. We haven't heard from this school earlier.
Yeah, he's
Here, front.
Samne.
You stand up? Yes? But this is a different school, I'm guessing.
Just one short one, quick.
Good morning, ma'am. I am Shayok Chakraborty of Delhi Public School, Howrah. And my question is, when you participated in Paralympics for the first time, what did you have in your mind? Did you participate in it for aiming for a medal, or was it to test your limits?
Very good question, and I'm glad you asked. For me, till 2014, I was world number 2 in javelin. When it was time for the Rio Paralympics, because I'd already announced that I'm not retiring before I play Paralympics, my event changed to shot put. Shot put is not something that I had prepared intensely. Nationals I used to play because I knew I was the best, but internationally it's not easy. So I started preparing. I became a laughing stock because everybody thought that from javelin, which is a 600-gram equipment, it is a speed event. Shot put is a big, heavy iron ball for which you have to grow muscles. I was already 46 years old. My technique changed, my coach changed, my diet changed, my gym session changed. It was too short a time to aim for the highest level of the medal, but I worked hard. And unfortunately, you will read the book if you do, I was dragged to the High Court when I got selected for the final selections because somebody said that a woman this age cannot qualify to be at the Paralympics at such a short time. So I was taken to the High Court for cheating. When I went to Paralympics, my dear students, I was more worried about proving my honesty and integrity. Medal definitely was the aim because that medal would have given me the voice that I finally got. Because when I won that medal, I could tell the media, I could tell my government, what has it taken 7 decades of independent India to win a female Paralympic medal, and that is something we need to look at. So when that medal happened, for 4.48 meters in the selection trials, I was taken to the court. But I won that medal with 4.61 meters. So it was very important for me to prove my honesty towards my hard work.
Thank you, everyone. I think that's all the time that we have before the next session starts. Dr. Deepa Malik will be available at the bookstore. So if you want to continue the conversation or get your book signed, this is her book, Bring It On. So it's a nice book. It's definitely got a really good story. So I would encourage you to take a look at it. So thank you all for coming. Thank you, Dr. Deepa, for your time here.
Wish you all the very best. Have a great year ahead and do well in life. Blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.